Welcome back to the Kerbal Space Program. When last we left, we had just completed 2 landings on Minmus, and this will be part 3 of our series of Minmus landings. We had a rough start in our first video, but everything seems to have come together rather well. We have a few challenges ahead of us, but we're not going to worry about those bogging us down. Today, we hope to make 2 more landings to 2 different sites. Not gonna lie, we're probably going to land on 1 more set of flats, if I can get our angle right here, and then probably a more interesting landing site. Not that the flats aren't great and all, and they're a huge morale booster, but it is time that we find ourselves something a little bit more challenging. Right now we have landed on the slopes, on the lesser flats, and on the flats. Of biomes that I am aware exist, we also have lowlands, highlands, midlands, great flats, and greater flats. Of those things that I can see here, it looks to me that these are the greater flats right in here, and then the great flats, I believe, if I could cheat the sunlight a little bit here, I think they're right in this area. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to speed up time, we're going to wait for sunlight to come around to a few new areas. That looks pretty good. This might be a bit of a challenge as we are coming in from a high apoapsis in order to get down there, so we're going to actually get this underway sooner rather than later. Let's go ahead. We are controlling from here. Bring ourselves around to prograde. At the end of our last video, we refueled our lander to save us some time on this one. Oops. Bill, not excited, knowing that the craft is rotating. He is probably getting ready to go again. And Bob looks very panicked over the fact that, I mean, he is technically, from his perspective anyhow, controlling this ship. That would be a tough landing zone, but it would be fun. Here we go. Let's go ahead and undock. SAS on. Whoops. Get out of the way here before anything terrible happens. What would be required of us to get into that zone? Not a whole lot, just 17 meters per second. Bring ourselves up a little bit. Looks good. Goodbye, guys. We'll see you on the other side. That said, we get ready to do it all again. Eventually we are going to have to start landing on this rough terrain. I do honestly believe it will be much easier than landing on the moon's rough terrain because of the low gravity and the low speeds. But obviously is harder than landing on these nice flat lake beds. Roll ourselves over here. Just above the Midlands. I am so positive I have that already. Landing's about 4 minutes away. As of this instance, so crashing is about 4 minutes away. I'm going to go ahead. Prepare to bleed off some of this speed. Bill becoming a pro at this set of maneuvers. Let's get our EVA out of the way. The greater flats. Keep that. Looking good. 90 seconds. Finally, the sense of wonder has overcome Bill. It's his weak spot. Seeing these beautiful images. Firmly the record holder for most steps taken on Minmus. Tied for the least number of crashes for now. And for the record, that would be, well, you could argue that we did flip over when Jebediah was flying, but those were the early days of the program. We're looking good here. Looking real good. Already looking ahead to our takeoff. Nice dip over the canyons here. Ought to make that pretty easy. Sun above us, so our shadow should be coming from somewhere over here when eventually it shows up. We hope. We're looking good. Bill ecstatic at this point. The good news is that if we were to suddenly have to eject, Bill could probably jump out and survive a fall from this height using his backpack. Just having a thought now, I really should have paid attention to the elevation of those other flats, but I'm inclined to think that there's 0, which would make a whole lot of sense and make the last 2 landings have gone a lot smoother had I realized that. There's our shadow coming to meet us. Hopefully not too quickly to meet us. It's coming a little quick. There we go. We had to fire up our engines a little bit there as we were coming down very quickly. But we kept our cool, and it went well. I mean, we're landed. Everything's intact. So we should be good to go there. We've got the greater flats. Go ahead and grab that. We've got our seismic data. We've got our temperature. Let's go ahead and grab our crew report. Our ship vibrating pretty wildly here. We're going to go ahead and do our EVA. Just, oh, ho, ho. That would have been tragic. We're trying for 6 flights here, and to go ahead and screw up and forget to do the goo, when that's the whole reason we brought the science lab, was so we could continue to do goo. Thermometer we did, gravioli we did, EVA time. Big smile there. Oh, victory jump. Gonna plant our flag. Bill Kerman taking the record for most landings. Well, technically you're right, he's tied with Bob, so let's not go jumping ahead of ourselves here. These were the great flats or the greater flats? Greater flats. There we go. Getting ready to climb back in here. Board our ship. And we are rotated a little bit from how I'd like to be, but it's not going to be that big of a deal. We're going to go ahead and take off. We have 8 rockets on this, so doing those small roll adjustments really does eat into our monopropellant fuel, so trying to do it as sparingly as possible. Let's pull We'll open our... Now, we have a little bit of a problem we haven't had so far, and that is going to be that our mothership is already past its apoapsis, so we might not be able to link up with our first pass around the Minmus. And that's, I mean, that's not a huge deal, but just something to be aware of. Oops. A little high on our inclination. Bring that down. Oh, we just passed our 100 unit mark. A little high, but it doesn't look too terrible. "23 minutes until our apoapsis. Oh, we want to make sure that that's prior to our apoapsis, so we're not losing height as we burn prograde. Remember, most important is that we get into an orbit. Once we're in an orbit, we can take our time to set up rendezvous. That said, I think 18, 15.4, 14.2, 13.7. We're going to be going quite a bit faster than them at that point, but I think I can do that. I think that'll be doable. 2 minutes until that burn. I was wondering why it was telling me I was going retrograde, but that is in relation to my target, because my target's 38 kilometers away. I don't know if we'll beat the fuel tolerances from the last flight. It'll be close. Though I will probably drop below those fuel tolerances when I am bleeding off speed to match my target. We're off ever so slightly here. Point 3, 4.2, 3.9, 2.8, 3.8, 1.9, 15 meters per second brings us to 1.5. Honestly, I feel good about that. So let's get in position for that burn. It'll bring us close together and on a very similar track for that point. So hopefully this 14.3 meters per second that we're spending now will come back to us with 14.3 meters per second less that we have to try to match our speeds. This thing is wiling out. We're either 1 kilometer apart or we're 57 kilometers apart. I don't know. That's nutty. As we get closer, hopefully that'll calm itself down. 1.4 kilometers at 12 minutes. That'll be the one we'll go for, is the orange. Two minutes. Yeah, we're only traveling 9 meters per second, different than one another. So that's real good. Let's go ahead, bleed that off. Okay. We'll go ahead and burn towards him at about 5 meters per second. And we'll get ready to take that off if we have to. Under a kilometer. 100 seconds left to go. Okay, we'll go ahead and point towards our buddy here. Our buddies. Shut down our engine. Just for the sake of it, we'll see how crazy that's all wiling out. As our ascending and descending nodes are pretty much synchronized, we're going to be next to each other within a half kilometer from now on. We're going to rotate our vessel. Going to bring up our RCS, and we're going to come in for docking mode. We're going to come up and reattach. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead, turn ourselves around here. Bob, let's go ahead and turn ourselves around here. Says we're not moving relative to one another, which is good. Switch back. Oops, don't want my RCSs yet. Bring this around. Looks good with that. Docking. We need to come up. We need to come up just a little bit. We need to move forward. A little to the left. Looks good. It looks real good. Nice job, Bill. You don't seem excited about it, but you did a nice job. We have capture. Bob wiling out there. We're going to go ahead. We're going to retract these panels. We're going to take a look at our resources. Go ahead, we're going to refuel. So this one is the one that is almost empty. We will be emptying it out this time around. .07 above, so we're actually just going to go ahead and dump that into another tank, so we no longer have to worry about it. Oops. There we go. So this tank is empty, this tank is empty, and this tank is empty. We could go ahead and jettison this now and not have to worry about it, but in terms of shape and safety, we're just going to go ahead and keep it attached. Our plan will be to jettison those before heading home. So this tank should be a little short on oxidizer. Perfect. There we go. And now just checking our monopropellant tanks here. All of those are full. Empty, empty, full, full. So these are where they were drawing them from. Outer tank first. Let's go ahead and empty that one. Just thinking about fuel and going home, and that last time when we went home, we went right from Minmus to a periapsis of like 30 to re-enter, and this time we can't do that. We have to go to 70 and then burn to get into an orbit. So that we don't lose our science lab passenger. And I am still kind of worried about him. I'm not terribly worried, but I'm worried enough about him that it just gave me pause there. So let's go ahead and... This canister is now empty, so we'll draw from here. Fill this up. Draw from here, fill this up. And we will back tank. Stop. Other way. So we are indeed going to have to take from one of our other tanks here. Once these two are empty, our plan was to go topside. So, in theory, communism would work. In theory, after this refueling, this set of tanks, and this set of tanks would have been empty. Instead, this set is almost completely full. We're 27 units short on monopropellant to make it completely full. So if I can do well with my fuel tolerances one more time, we should be able to squeeze an extra landing out of this mission, which is pretty cool. Fuel is full. Monopropellant, ooh, still not full. Glad I caught that. So that's going to be 37 units. Or 36 is how it gets rounded. So, alright. That said, it's time to send our commander out to go collect some experiments. When I was coming in, for some reason I was thinking the wide space was where that was, so I specifically rotated my craft to match up, and I was just wrong. It happens. Okay, we're going to go ahead, store those experiments. Oh, I forgot to grab them out of. Up to 33. One experiment on me that I couldn't store anywhere. Let's go ahead and get in. I'm going to clean those experiments. There we go. All set. Now we'll pick out another landing zone. Looks like we have one more set of flats right here. It's very dark. We know that it would be about 0 degrees. I mean, 0. It's rotating underneath us. Let's do it. We've made up our mind. Bill. Let's extend our panels. And we will we'll head back. See what it takes to get us there. Not there. Missed it. Now the world is rotating beneath us. We're hoping it rotates a fair amount. It's rotating towards us, though. Right, it's rotating towards us. That's what we want. Set ourselves up. Make sure we are clear. We are clear. Show the resources are good. And we'll begin our descent. Here we go now. Hoping I didn't mess up here, and that we are indeed going the direction I think we're going. Yep, it looks good. Sunlight's starting to come up. That would have been disastrous. Let's go ahead and get this out of here because it's just distracting. 2.5 minutes. Some very neat shadows cast by these highlands. Again, we know where we're going. We know the, at least I'm assuming I know the elevation. So this should be pretty good. Seven kilometers above now. The last landing did get a little tricky, a little dicey. We pulled it off though. We don't have our shadow to give us that extra visual warning. Should be okay though. Coming up. Start slowing. We want to attempt to beat the numbers that we had last time. Took us about 100 units of monopropellant to land. Let's go ahead and do our quick EVA. (112 meters per second). Sorry. We're at 3 kilometers above the surface. Make sure our engine is activated just in case. Plummeting in about 50 meters per second. Excuse me. Here we go. Kilometer above the surface. Traveling at about 18 meters per second. Coming up on 100 units used of monopropellant. Want to try to conserve the rest of that as much as we can. That said, definitely like my other lights better than these ones. That said, we're not going to crash over trying to conserve a little bit of monopropellant to try to get an extra flight or extra landing. .200 meters above the surface, falling at about 15 meters per second. 100 meters off the surface, 90, 80, 70, 60, 50. Nice landing. We can watch sunrise. Sunrise from our landing spot on the flats. Pretty cool. Grab our crew report. Let's go ahead and grab, not our monopropellant, let's grab our mystery goo observation. Let's go ahead and grab our other mystery goo observation. We want our gravioli. Nope, we already have that one. We want our gravioli detection. Very cool. Seismic data. Let's go ahead and do our EVA. We're going to take our surface sample. We're going to do our EVA report from the Great Flats. We're going to take our victory jump up 10 meters. Plant our flag. These are the Great Flats. Grab a hold and come on up. There is our parent craft coming up to its periapsis. 270 degrees. in that direction. Nothing but wide open skies. Bill, smiling as he thinks to himself of what he has accomplished here. And with that, we will begin our ascent. Our engine is indeed on, should we need it. I mean, we will need it, but for right now, we're good to just float up. Very subtly use our engines. Ahead and start rolling over. Height not nearly as important to us in this instance. In terms of angle, we're looking pretty good. Coming up a little bit higher. Oops. A little bit higher than our parent. But overall, looks on the money. We'll begin our full rollover. Widen this out until we get down to about 35 units of fuel. Then we'll start figuring out our burn to get us into an orbit. past our spot here. Start with this, and then we'll worry about getting into orbit. I mean, into a rendezvous solution. Of course, with the mission profile, any rendezvous we do get into, we will have to do with our lander. And not our mothership. Okay. Brings us into a nice, rather circular orbit at 10 kilometers around. That looks pretty close to what we had last time around. Whoops. Eight. 9, 13, 6, 4, 5, 2, 1. There we are. Meters per second. We're going to use a little bit more liquid fuel on this run than we did in our last 2 landings, but that's okay. Still well within our guidelines. "57 seconds. 5.1, 4.9, 4.8, 4.7, 3, 2, 1.7, 1.3, 1.1. 1.1 kilometers. And then on our second pass, we'll be 65 kilometers away from each other. So 1.1 kilometers, 23 minutes from now. set up here as we come up on our target. Three and a half minutes. Oh. We're closer than I thought we were. And we're falling away, so let's go ahead. And head towards our target. 4 meters per second ought to suffice. Less than 100 seconds remain. There we can see our engine. Very top-heavy craft. Bill does not seem satisfied. Normally he's a little bit more excited when he sees his friends. Traveling at 2 meters per second, 120 meters away from our ship. Okay, switch craft here. Same deal as last time. We're gonna bring our craft around. Okay, we're going to go ahead, we're going to rotate. Top side up. we go. Set as our target. So we went 0.87 units over for liquid fuel. But it looks like we're going to have an extra 10 units at least of monopropellant versus previous flights. So that's an okay trade-off. Set up for docking. Three coals in the fire here. It's going to be close. There we are, we have captured. And from here, same old story. We're actually... kind of a weird angle here. That one's empty, so this one is going to be the one we're going to draw fuel from. Okay, this should be a pretty standard drill for you guys now. Now, of course, originally, by the end of this refueling, this set of tanks should be empty. Actually, all 4 sets should be empty, and right now, that's not the case. Oops. So, this should be full, and it is. This should be full, and it is not. And, of course, our back tank is full. Our liquid fuel is full. Our oxidizer is full. Let's send out Jebediah. Oh, let's retract these. Jebediah gets a little crazy when he's scooting around. Send out Jebediah. Collect goo. Take that data. Take that data. Take that data. Take that. I am taking that data. I'm not saying take that data. I've got nothing against data, of course. Now data, that's a different thing entirely. collect that. None of these should have anything in them, but just in case. There we are. Let's go ahead and store these. 41 experiments now on board. Let's go ahead and clean those experiments. And with that, we will close out this video, part 3 here. So everything so far has gone very, very well. Our first video was, of course, rocky on our way here, but so far things have gone just absolutely better than I could have planned. I wanted to get 4 landings, which I was able to do before heading home. I think we're actually going to stick around, do 1 more landing for sure, and I really honestly think we're going to be able to hit 2 more landings. Those ones will be a little bit more difficult as I am out of flats to land in, I believe, and I'll review the data, but I'm pretty sure I've hit all of the flat lake beds. So we'll do 2 more interesting landings hopefully, and then head home. Now the landings are taking me about half an hour apiece, so it'll probably be next part will be 2 landings, and then the part after that will be heading home, and then there may even have to be a part over that after that of cleaning up this mission to come up and rescue our good old science friend here, Durzor. And but we'll deal with that when we get there. Thanks very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.